Hello, Firebird 609. My name is Festive Long Johns. I've been playing Code 2 for a long time, since the beta. Played the original Company of Heroes before that, and I've got about 3,000 hours logged in this game. And I saw your post on the strategy section of the forums and thought I'd take a look at the replay and see what we can do here. I'm going to go ahead and watch this replay with the Fog of War on so I can see only what you see. And we can go through your Infantry Company commander strategies from there. I understand you really like Infantry Company. You want to refine your play style within that commander, so we're going to go over some things there that we'll just kind of play it by ear. Just kind of get a feel for your general play style. I see you've spawned your second rifleman on this side, which is good. Generally speaking, in the early game, you want to try and get every advantage you can. Especially when you're playing as Americans, you want to be aggressive with your initial rifleman. You want to spot where his stern pioneers are. Looks like he's playing for this fuel. And you can hear the Kubel in the Fog of War, so you know both of his initial starting units that are high value are on the right hand side, which means this rifle squad should have free access to take down the only Volk squad that is left. This Kubel is going to back away when it gets low health. You should expect the stern pyros to charge from the Fog of War. As soon as you see the stern pyros charging, you should focus fire on him. That's actually a huge blow for him. That's a very big pickup in the early game for you. That's going to severely limit his capping power. Here come the Stern Pioneers. Should be able to win this engagement easily. Volley fire is not something you want to pop unless you are in cover. You were already low health. Volley fire actually increases the received accuracy by the squad. So once you pop that ability, your echelons are going to start taking a lot more damage, so it's only an ability you want to use while you're in cover and your squad is full health. And now you've seen his second Volk squad here, so he sent everything to the fuel on this side. You need to be going and getting this fuel right away. I understand something that you mentioned in your post initially was that should I stress munitions over fuel? Yes, but not initially. Once you've teched, fuel... In the mid-game, I'd say munitions are more important for Infantry Company because it's really imperative that you equip all of your rifles with LMGs as quickly as possible. It might be tempting to lay mines in the early game with your rifles, but it's not as important as getting LMGs because your LMGs are going to both bleed your opponent, and the faster you can start bleeding your opponent, the more pressure you're going to be able to apply. And they'll also help your rifleman vet up faster to that Vet 3 bonus, which is just wicked. Vet 3 rifles with LMGs are just nasty. So you've got 4 rifles, which is a good build, I'd say, for Infantry Company. It's a nice base. At this point, I think going Captain is really the only... is the best teching. Oh, you totally had that engagement. Had you stayed there behind cover and just focused that Stern Pioneer squad down, you definitely would have won that fight. Not a bad idea microing back, considering you had reinforcements though. So that was very well played. Forcing off Stern Piles like that and having 2 rifle squads here and a rifle and a echelon here, you can start getting a little bit aggressive, especially considering now he's overextending with his Volks. That should be your cue to close in on this squad. Actually, you can just force this squad alone. Force the squad away on your own. Push up with these 2. This rifle squad should be pushing up on the cutoff here. Bit of a misplay from your opponent here, considering he is pushing up on the cutoff that is not really connected to anything. So, nicely done pushing him off here. More Volk squads coming in. Easy engagement to win. You're capping the left. Now you got this rifle squad moving. Now you're floating a little bit at this point. You should be thinking about teching. So timing is very important for the Americans because if you're going to make any use out of your light vehicles, you've got to tech right on time. So you're floating quite a bit of fuel now. You should have built your captain about a minute ago, or basically as soon as you had the manpower, and then gone with the ambulance. The captain's another fighting squad. Right now, all of your infantry is relatively full health. You've been winning most of your engagements. Bit of an unnecessary retreat. I guess it makes sense if you want to try and get them healed up. So against Stern Pioneer squads, you got a Stern Pioneer squad and a Volk squad charging. This house is not the best garrison because, as you can see, you're only making use of out of one model right now, or I guess 3 models out of your 5 are firing out of those windows. Had you backed both of them off to this green cover? Now you shouldn't be leaving this green cover against these MGs. It looks like you targeted the Stern Pioneers directly, and then they retreated. It pulled you out of green cover. Nicely done by microing back into green cover. Okay, so we've got a Mortar half-track, and in my opinion, the Mortar half-track is a bit redundant because if you're playing Infantry Company, it makes the most sense to go for a captain anyway. And the Mortar half-track is going to cost you a whopping 40 fuel. And for that cost, it just doesn't. It's just not worth it to go for above a pack howitzer. It's a lot cheaper in terms of manpower than the pack howitzer, but they both fill the same role. And the pack howitzer, especially on a map like Crossing in the Woods, is just so good if you position it correctly. This is an engagement where you should be pushing up aggressively to prevent him from finishing that cap. You don't want to give him that fuel income. Had you pushed up as soon as that engagement started, you could have denied him that fuel. You would have easily won the engagement, and now he's getting that fuel income there. So if you have an opportunity to win an engagement and deny territory at the same time, get your foot in that circle. If we pop the Fog of War on here, you can see that the rest of his army is at his base, so he doesn't even have anything to back it up because he's been pushing this right side so much. At this point, you should start thinking about getting LMGs on your rifles. You've got tons of munitions. You need, if you're going to play Infantry Company, you need to equip your rifles with LMGs as soon as possible. So try and time your engagements and your retreats around when you hit 3 CPs and when you can retreat. So you've got some rifles in the base now. You need to equip those as soon as possible. This squad is going to be able to trade the fuel. You're a little late on that one because now he's going to come over here and snag your fuel. You'll get it just a little bit quicker. There we go, grabbing the rifles. Go ahead and grab 2. If you've got a rifle squad at the base, stick 2 LMGs on them. If it's going to be a while before other squads retreat, you've got plus 42 munitions income. You might as well stack them up while you can.
We're losing a capture point.
Got a captain on the field, that's good. You haven't seen any tech from him yet. And one of the more tricky things to figure out, there you go, Mortar half-track doing some work. Maybe it's not so bad after all. 5 kills isn't terrible. I just think that 40 fuel cost is just way too much. One thing to keep in mind about playing with light vehicles on this map is it's really hard to... I just have a hard time making light vehicles work because AT guns, even Raketans and Shreks, shut it down so hard. There's very few opportunities. It's not a very open map. They tend to get bottlenecked. Okay, gotta keep an eye on grenades. Nicely dodged, well done. He's gonna push up. Oh, you didn't necessarily need to retreat there. That was an unlucky Shrek snipe, but bit of a preemptive retreat. And you had this rifle squad over here in the base. Could have picked up the LMGs, but did not. So when you're playing Infantry Company, it's all about those LMGs. That is the most. That's the central. That's the central piece of this strategy here. It's the most. Uh-oh, you got a Raket creeping up on you here. That's ballsy. All right, it's exposed. One thing you can do is you can hop out of this, hop out of the truck here, and the Raketan actually won't target it unless he targets it manually. a little trick. Sometimes you can fool some lesser experienced players. Very nice use of the white phosphorus there. Going to drain the MG and block its line of sight. Although it doesn't look like it's blocking its line of sight there. But you'll be able to wipe that MG easily. You got your rifles positioned very well over here. Okay, so he likes to throw flame grenades. You've seen it a couple times now. Always something to keep in mind. You get a feel for, you know, a certain player's play style. You know he's going to throw a lot of grenades. He's not going to have enough munitions for things like Shreks. So you can consider getting a Stewart. I wouldn't recommend it on this map. I would only recommend going a Stewart if he has pushed a Luke's out, because a Captain is not enough to deal with the Luke's on its own. It can keep it at bay, but the Stewart's really going to do a nice job of shutting that down. Right now, you're firmly in control of the game. But you need to be pressuring VPs. So you're playing defensive with your rifles here. You've done a good job of winning engagements, and you have a much higher army composition here, or a much better army composition than your opponent. If we switch off the fog of war now, we can see that your opponent only has 5 combat units, whereas you have 4 rifles and a captain. Fallschirmjägers, while they're okay, they're extremely expensive. This guy really likes to throw grenades. And okay, so that's kind of a blow right there. Bit of a misstep. Certainly not unmanageable. But again, you're floating almost 300 munitions playing infantry company. You unlocked your LMGs 5 minutes ago. All of your rifle squads at this point should have LMGs. Every single one of them, if not 2. You would be winning these engagements so much harder. Can you imagine if you had 2 LMGs on this rifle squad? You just absolutely shred these Volks. So that's really important. Look at what just one squad with LMGs, with 1 LMG does to those Volks. It's absolutely imperative that you equip all of your rifles with LMGs as soon as humanly possible. Again, we're seeing some resource flow. Your opponent is teching, while you have almost 160 fuel and almost 600 manpower and no major tech. So if you're going to maintain momentum as Americans, when you're playing Americans, it's all about maintaining momentum. Your rifles are very strong in the early game, and they scale incredibly well into the late game with these LMGs. So you want to snowball that by getting out a vehicle of some sort sooner than your opponent. Now, if he goes as OKW, if he goes for a mechanized truck and he gets a Panzer II Luke's out, you counter that with your captain and your Stewart. You can use your LMG rifles as all the anti-infantry that you need. You won't need any more anti-infantry than your 4 rifle squads with LMGs. Now, going a 5th rifle squad is a bit risky, unless you can micro it well. If the thing is, you're going to start bleeding manpower if you can't have effective engagements. And if you're not a player that is adept at microing at multiple points of the field, you're going to just bleed really hard. Right here, these rear echelons did some decent damage, and you did a nice job backing off with your mortar half-track, and you're actually going to win this engagement. So he throws another flame grenade. So he's really just leaning on these grenades to win him engagements. Again, all of these rifles in your base, and you're not equipping your LMGs. So absolutely have to keep that in mind. This is the linchpin of your strategy. You need as many LMGs on your rifle squads as you could possibly get. Also, I would not advise teching to bazookas if you're going to play infantry company. That's another 15 fuel that you don't need. You've already got your captain on the field. That comes with 2 bazookas. You don't really need any more soft AT than that. If you need some mid-game AT, you can go a Stewart. The Stewart is fantastic at dealing with the mechanized vehicles from the OKW. You can save yourself 15 fuel because you're certainly not going to equip BARs on your riflemen when your commander gives you access to the much more powerful LMG. So again, we see another 40 fuel spent on the mortar half-track. Not necessary. Save that fuel, tech to a major, and if you really want more indirect fire, you can always go with a pack howitzer. Pack howitzer is equally as effective as the mortar half-track, and as expensive in the fuel department. It actually doesn't cost any fuel. So again, playing Americans, should be always thinking keeping the pressure on. Get that triple cap. Move that rifle scout. I know you want to try and stay in cover, but territory wins games in Code 2. So if you know where at least a good chunk of his army is, and you can sneakily cap a VP, do it. Be cheeky, be a pain in the ass. I would see here. I would advise against getting bazookas on your riflemen. If you want a bazooka squad, stick it on your echelon and put the M1919s on your riflemen, because the bazookas make your rifles much less effective at any infantry, and that's all you have playing this strategy for anti-infantry. You don't have the lieutenant. You don't have the 50 cal LMG to keep those Volks in check. You don't have an AA half-track. You're leaning really heavily on your rifles in this build for anti-infantry. So I would advise against getting bazookas on your rifles. I would advise even teching bazookas. Save the 150 manpower and 15 fuel, and just stack up on those LMGs. You've still got rifle squads without LMGs in your floating munitions. Another thing to keep in mind is if you have so many munitions, your rifles can lay mines. That's incredibly valuable. Every time you go cap a point, you've done a nice job dodging all these grenades, by the way. But every time you go and cap a point, lay a mine. You've got, all these munitions building up. These rifles could put a mine here. You could put another mine here. You could, after these guys push this MG off, which should be easy if you flank, you spotted the MG, this rifle should reposition over here, and you've got some indirect fire supporting it. You want to try not to stack your infantry up on top of each other when they're going up against an MG, but that's cool. Your LMGs force it off anyway. So you're in an absolute dominant position. And here he goes. Not sure where you lost that rifleman. Oh, it was over here. Okay. And again, we see him pushing heavily the right side. So when he's doing shit like this, where he just sends, 3/4 of his army to one side of the map, and you don't have anything to push him off with it, you need to be thinking, okay, I need to immediately either counter on the other side of the map by capping territory. Again, you've got 2 squads here just idling. You forced that MG off a while ago. And you need to either counter on the other side of the map, or you need to consolidate your forces and push up. So you want to rebuild another rifle squad, but you already lost the first one, or one of them. I guess 2 of them now, because it's a lot to manage. You've got 5 rifles, a captain, and a rear echelon squad. That's a lot of infantry to keep track of. And until you get a little bit better at, managing that many infantry units, you might consider just sticking with 4 rifles and go ahead and teching. Because you're at 250 fuel now. You should have teched a major a while ago. Because an HE Sherman could have ended this game. You could have had an HE Sherman out a while ago. Instead, you've given him enough time to get a Jagdpanzer. And the Jagdpanzer's a really big pain in the ass to deal with. Because they're going to outduel the Jackson on this map. Really, the only way to force them off is the captain and some AT guns. So, not a bad idea, starting to whittle away the tier 4 with these mortar half-tracks. It'll at least keep his stern pioneers busy repairing rather than out fighting and capping. You got to be careful with your with your mortar half-tracks here, though, because he has a lot of AT here. You should be very, very careful with that. Especially your Vet 2 one. If he spots that, it's going to go down real quick. Yeah, there you go. He's got 2 Shreks. He forced off the Raketten, but his P4 or his Jagdpanzer's there. A nice job of backing off there, and now we've got some bazookas moving up to deal with the Jagdpanzer. Nicely played. That's going to do a ton of damage, and actually you're going to wipe this if you follow up well. Keep backing up with your... Yeah, very nice. So those bazookas actually paid off quite well dealing with the Jagdpanzer. But bazookas are something you can build as a reactionary thing. You don't want to preempt bazookas. you know, you want to use that fuel to continue to snowball your advantage. So again, make sure you spend your fuel.
Krauts are sniffing around our asses. Tactical point being captured.
Gives you a nice vet 3 on your captain.
Our supply line just
I'm
got
going to speed this up just a little bit.
The enemy is overrunning one of our capture points.
Pushing up heavily on the left side.
Enemies are swarming one of our emplacements.
You want to, one thing to note there is you don't want to engage in a fight that you can't win. You have so much more infantry than him, or at least upgraded infantry. You know, you now have 1, 2, 3, 4 squads. They should have double LMGs. Okay, so 3 mortar half-tracks, totally excessive. You have almost no AT. Bazookas are fine against, you know, a Jagdpanzer, but against like a Panzer IV or, you know, King Tiger, or he's working on, so he only has 2 tiers right now. But of course you don't know that. But 3 mortar half-tracks is so over the top in terms of indirect fire. I mean, look, your other mortar half-track that you build only has 1 kill. I would really, then they're kind of derpy too. I mean, look at that. They're just kind of getting situations where they're a little tricky to use. Now we've got grenades. That'll help you use your munitions. Not a bad idea, considering we used to have 2 munitions caches, but should definitely spend your fuel. See, you keep losing these rifles because you can't manage that many of them. So don't rebuild them. If you can't keep track of 5 rifle squads, you should avoid building that many. Instead, go ahead and tech up. Spend your resources on, you know, something else. Either an AT gun, or because you're kind of lacking for AT right now. You've only got, you know, the bazooka and this other rifle squad, and you should be getting a little worried. Your opponent's building a P4, which, you know, your bazookas will do an okay job of keeping in check, but really, it's going to slowly start bleeding you even more. It's a poor play by your opponent here. But he's forced you off the map entirely. Mostly because he's just sending his units to, you know, to cap a lot more frequently than you are. He has less idle units and he doesn't retreat as much. I've noticed you're really quick to retreat in certain situations. Okay, so P4's on the field. And you've got almost 300 fuel now. Mortar half-track is doing okay. P4 is trying to find some room to work, getting way too aggressive here. Has absolutely no infantry support whatsoever. He does manage to pick up your half-track.
Light vehicle just got destroyed.
Thing about the P4 is it's not an I win unit. It's a fantastic support tank. It's not, you know, in this situation, if he pushes with his see, look, he pushed with his P4 with no infantry. Now he's pushing with his infantry without his P4 because he's busy repairing it. Should save his P4 for when he can actually support it. And in this case, you're just getting out blobbed. You know, he's concentrated all of his units together and caught 1 or 2 of your units out on their own. If you can't win that engagement, I mean, you've got 1 squad there against his 4, just retreat. You know, let him push up, because he's not going to cap that much if all of his squads are in one place. You can retreat, and then consolidate that MG, move it over, and shut it down with some suppression. So
machine gun
Priest is not a bad idea considering he's been blobbing a lot. But the second P4 is on the way now, and you're going to see what happens here. You get punished for your lack of AT. So, while bazookas are decent, they're not, well, in this case, he, just played it with that, he played that P4 poorly. He's probably going to lose it. He's pushing up without his infantry again, so he got punished for that. But if he pushes with the P4 and his infantry, this would be GG. Jackson right now would be perfect. It's really what you need. A Jackson and, dear God, a pack howitzer. Look at that shit. One nice pack howitzer hit would shut that down. And the thing is, pack howitzer doesn't get killed by Shreks as easily as the mortar half-track does, and it doesn't cost you fuel. So, I'd advise definitely working a pack howitzer into your build rather than going so heavy on the mortar half-tracks. A mid-game mortar half-track's okay if you know, after you've got your tech buildings out, but you don't want to, there's no reason to rush a mortar half-track. Now when you've got all your units together, this is blobbing 101, focus fire one squad at a time. You want to try and burn down those units as quickly as possible. So don't let them target whatever they want. You want to, you know, right-click the one squad that they've got. So you've got them down to 91 VPs, but there's no reason to panic. You know, you still have all your infantry. You still have almost 300 fuel. There's no reason to freak out because you've got 380 VPs still. You should just be quietly pushing one of these VPs over here. Take this rear echelon squad and just, you know, use it to harass the VPs. Use it, try and thin his forces out. When people want to blob like that and they want to stick all their units in one mass, you can punish that by capping in areas of the map where they aren't. It forces him to either redirect his resources to spread out a little bit, which prevents him from blobbing as hard, or he just loses territory. So like an unsupported MG is not going to stop a blob like that, but look, you just forced a mass retreat there. Cap that VP. You got him down to just 90 VPs. That should be priority number one. You can build sandbags while you're capping. So you've got him down to 85 VPs now. You should be absolutely be capping that. And this squad, this MG should be moving over here along with this rear echelon squad to harass the left side. Then you can take the rest of your actual fighting units and push off the left, win with an easy triple cap. Fantastic use of that. Oh man, that is just absolutely perfect use of that Weiss Phosphorus. That was awesome. That was absolutely wicked, man. Just forced off his entire army again. So you just saw like 8 squads retreating. That should be your cue to push up. With infantry company, you can push up, get in good position, and make it a real big pain in the ass for them to try and push back. So now you've got a Stuart building at 30 minutes. Well, he's got a Panther on the field, so you're just going to get outgunned here. The Stuart is a nice tank to build. You know, immediately after you get your captain. Ah, there you go. You popped out of the vehicle. I love that trick. Very nicely done. So Stuart's a nice support tank, but it's not going to win you the game at the 30-minute mark. You should have teched by now. You can't play Americans without the major. American tier 3 is incredibly strong. I mean, the pack howitzer is kind of lackluster. But the Jackson and the H.E. Sherman both really excel at what they do. H.E. Sherman is one of the best squad wipers in the game. The AoE profile on it is just nasty. I would avoid building fighting positions at this point in the game because he has a Panther on the field. He's got a Raketten. Even frontally assaulting it with Shreks will take it out. So I would just don't even bother with fighting positions unless it's early on in the game. These bazookas are doing a nice job forcing off his tanks. So look, right side's been completely uncontested for a long time now. When you see somebody blobbing like this, you don't have to fight this blob head on. Go harass other areas of the map. It'll force him to thin his lines a little bit. And if he doesn't thin his lines, again, he'll start losing those territories. And when you're in a VP drain situation like this, that's the way to go. Nice MG positioning there, doing a good job forcing retreats. Nice rifle or nice grenade with your rifles. Now you should go cap this VP right now.
Points remaining.
Game's only getting harder the longer it goes. The more Shreks he gets, the more vet he gets on these Volks. You don't really need territory. You're floating resources. You need VPs at this point. So you should be pushing the VPs. As soon as you see a retreat, you should be thinking, okay, I gotta go for the throat now. I just forced off like half of his army. And be going for VPs. So like this point right here gives you +5 munis and +5 fuel, which you're not even really using. But you're only 58 VPs away from winning the game. So late in the game, if you're floating resources, you should be thinking, okay, how can I control these victory points? Which means harassing this right side. You don't want to tunnel vision too much on one portion of the map, especially when he's blobbing like that. I'm gonna go ahead and speed this one up. Again, you got some rifles that are unequipped with LMGs. Make sure your rifles all have LMGs. Oh my good lord! Oh! God, that was brutal! Well, that's the game right there, man. Just go stick all your squads on all the VPs, put an MG behind one. You got this. He's gonna lose his Panther too. Losing your priest is no big deal if he's gonna throw a Panther. Wow. Alright. There was no need to retreat all your infantry to go kill that Panther. I mean, you can retreat your infantry squads that have bazookas, but you don't need to retreat all of them. Again, you're capping territory, you should be going for VPs. There we go, now we got a squad harassing the right. Again, you don't need this point. You need this point. Don't cap the fuel. Go cap the VP.
The enemy is overrunning one of our capture points.
You're not even spending your fuel at this
Friendly's
point.
down to 100 points. I say again, allies at 100 points. Getting plastered over here. We're getting the help. Damn Crouch just wasted some of our riflemen. We got engine damage. Consolidate our forces. We're left with 50 points.
Well, looks like you got a pretty good shot at winning this. Got to cap the left VP as well. Don't back off so much, man. This rifle squad should stay in position to... Okay, he's blobbing everything on the left side. Go send something to the right. That's your cue right there. Is he just gonna Faust your Stewart to death? Oh my goodness. Got 2 pack howies now. Oh, if you end up losing this, I'm gonna be sad. Another Stewart? Oh my god! He's floating almost 500 fuel as well. He doesn't even have the manpower to spend on vehicles because he's floating fuel so bad. And the blob! P4 is just roaming wherever it pleases because you're relying on bazookas to, good god. 1, 2, 3, 4 Fallschirmjäger squads. Oh, he's just sitting. Oh my god! He's just sitting there eating these mortar half-tracks. Wow. This game is ridiculous. Go cap this right VP. There's nothing over there. That's what I would say. Here comes the blob. Like, you could just cheese him so hard by just retreating every time his blob shows up and then going and capping somewhere else. You could even use your Stewart. You could even use your Stewart to go cap over here on this side. You just got to be careful to keep an eye on it and hop back in when he gets over there. Okay, so to recap, spend your fuel. 1 mortar half-track is plenty. I would advise actually against the mortar half-track and go with the pack howitzer instead. Upgrade your rifles with LMGs absolutely as soon as possible. As soon as you hit 3 CPs, you need to be upgrading every single one of your rifle squads with an LMG. You want double LMGs on all your rifles before you do anything else, before you lay any mines, before you buy any bazookas. You want LMGs on all your rifles. I would advise against purchasing the weapon rack unlock. It's kind of redundant because you've already got free access to the LMGs, so you can spare that 150 manpower and 15 fuel. Instead, you should rely on your captain and maybe a mid-game steward for AT against mechanized truck OKW. And then get a major out as soon as you've got the fuel for it. Playing without a major as Americans is suicide. Um, it's really hard to do against better players. The Sherman is amazing at dealing with infantry. The smoke shells are awesome just in general. And the Jackson does a fantastic job against tanks. I would even say the only time you would go with a Sherman is if you already have the lead and you want to push your advantage. But for the most part, you're going to be building Jacksons as infantry company because your rifles should have enough anti-infantry capability to deal with all the infantry that the Axis can throw at you. So the combination of rifles and the Jackson, along with a pack howitzer and maybe a priest, this is a good map for a priest, especially against somebody blobbing like this, is a really nice composition. Also against blobbing, don't engage. If he's got all of his squads in one spot, that means he doesn't have anything anywhere else. So don't take those manpower losses. Don't sit there and try and wait for reinforcements, because by the time your reinforcements get there, that squad that they're focusing down is already going to be drained, and it's just going to be a trickle-down effect. You know, it's just going to you're just going to get bled really hard. So harass other areas of the map. Just retreat and go focus somewhere else and force his blob either to move or to thin out, and then you can pick him off with your rifles. So hope this helped. You know, don't take the criticism too harshly. I hope I wasn't coming off too harsh. I'm only trying to give you some advice. All in all, I'd say you played really well. You did a nice job dodging grenades. You just need to alter your build a little bit and learn how to deal with somebody that is blobbing like that. And I think you'll have a lot of success. So, yeah, again, this was fun. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope maybe somebody else can get something out of it as well. So thanks, and I'll see you next time.